Side Hustle Show 53, your first $1,000 as a freelancer.
Welcome to the Side Hustle Show, where aspiring part-time entrepreneurs learn how to turn their side hustle dreams into reality. Because your 9 to 5 may make you a living, but your 5 to 9 makes you alive. And now, your host, Nick Loper.
Hey everybody, Nick Loper here. Welcome to the Side Hustle Show. This is episode 53, your first $1,000 as a freelancer. Did you take your cold shower yet today? Hey, in this episode, I'm joined by Cameron Rambert from digitalmind.com, where freelancers learn to earn. Cameron impressed me with his freelance chops, and I read his free ebook, 7 Steps to Make Money on Odesk and Elance, and I thought it was really good stuff. So that's the story of this episode. I think you're going to like it. Before we get into a couple quick news and notes, first is a new 5-star iTunes review. This one's coming in from GT Joshua. He says, a must listen for aspiring entrepreneurs. Josh, thank you so much for that. Keep those reviews coming in. Next up is applications are open for round 2 of the Side Hustle Nation Inner Circle Mastermind. If you're ready to take some action and make meaningful progress towards your side hustle goals in the next 3 months, I encourage you to check it out at sidehustlenation.com/join. You'll work directly with me, and this group is capped at 6 members, and we'll get started as soon as it fills up. So again, that's sidehustlenation.com/join. Ready? Let's get into it. Hey, Cameron, welcome to the Side Hustle Show.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
Doing excellent. Thank you. Now, Cameron is the co-founder of digitalmind.com. That's mind like mining for gold, not mind like your brain. He's a business development superstar and an online marketing pro. And you may have picked up on that accent. He's joining us all the way from Australia to share some wisdom on how to get started making money as a freelancer. So, Cameron, maybe I can be your guinea pig client here. Like, what's step 1?
I guess the first step is deciding what skill you can sell. And for most people, the easiest place to start is on, I guess, whatever professional skills you already have. So if you're a graphic designer, if you're a web developer, if you're a writer, they're the easiest places, I guess, to look inward and start working on. The second place is also to consider what might be in demand. So, if there's certain growth industries like online marketing, for example, there's always demand for that. Doesn't matter how many gurus there are out there, there's always demand for good online marketers. So you could consider teaching yourself how to essentially fill the gaps that exist out there. And I guess the third, and what I consider my favorite, is just consider what you'd like to do long term and just go ahead and do it. I had a friend who really wanted to be a Ruby developer, so he taught himself in his spare time on sites like Codecademy, Treehouse, Learnable, etc. And then essentially used sites like Odesk and Elance to take on really small projects at a relatively low rate just to build up some practice. And now he basically commands the prices he wants. So,
how do you know what skills you have might be valuable in the freelance world?
That's a good question. So I guess the easiest way, at least in my mind, would be to go to sites like Odesk, Elance, Freelancer, and just look at what people are searching for. So you can browse by category. So if you look at, I'm just going to keep using the web development example, just because it's a bit more relevant to what I work in. But you just browse your web development category and just look at the different jobs on offer. You'll see a variety of things. You'll see, WordPress plugin development. You'll see PSD to WordPress template, and you'll start to get a feel of I guess the demand in certain areas, and you can stack yourself up based on what you already know and what you think you might know.
Okay, so that's kind of looking back on your own professional skills based on what jobs you have, what you are doing for your day job, kind of getting a gauge for the demand that might be out there, and looking at some of these platforms might be a good way to do that. And then finally, considering what it is you like to do, because if you hate your day job and you're looking for a side hustle to get away from that, maybe doing the same thing after hours is not the greatest choice for you. So Cameron, do you have a preferred platform of choice? Do you recommend people get started, pitching these services locally on Craigslist, or do you prefer like Elance or Odesk or something like that?
Yeah, I have a preferred platform only because I guess it's what I was first introduced to. But after a bit of research and talking to a lot of freelancers, they all pretty much have the same job. They all do the same thing. And I always recommend to other freelancers, you've got to expand yourself outside the online platform. Like networking and word of mouth will always be your biggest seller if you're a good freelancer. So I guess for me, I use Elance because based on when I read the 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, he name drops it a few times. And I was looking at outsourcing some existing work I had myself. And then sure enough, over time, I became a freelancer on the platform.
Okay.
And what's interesting about Elance, or at least any of these online platforms, and a lot of freelancers get a bit discouraged about, is they think they're competing against a lot of, I guess, lower socioeconomic countries. They get undercut, undercharged. But what's interesting is if you come from a professional background, you can actually, put a premium on your prices, and essentially it becomes your differentiation point. And you sort of weed out the bad clients who just want something cheap, and you actually start finding the clients that want something really, really well done.
I'm glad you bring that up, because that is the reputation for a lot of people, is that these platforms, Elance and Odesk in particular, are just a race to the bottom, right? I'm going to put this job up for bid. I'm going to get people back for $2 an hour. And it's like, how am I going to compete with this stuff? And you're saying, don't even try to compete with that stuff. Those aren't the jobs you want anyways. And you can actually use your higher price and your higher skill qualifications or whatever as a differentiation point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most of the jobs that I used to bid for were at least $30 to $40 an hour more expensive than, my counterparts from across the world. Essentially, the clients that want the cheaper job will get burned eventually. Maybe not at first. Maybe they're lucky and they do find that, diamond in the rough from wherever they're from. And, they'll get discouraged about outsourcing in general, and they'll disappear. I actually found one of my best clients on Elance, which was almost a bit serendipitous-like. I mean, she had never used the platform before. I had never used the platform before. And she thought I was scamming at first. Like, she thought, there's no way you've got that experience. There's no way you've done all these things. And I'm like, no, it's true. And then she, ironically enough, now I'm not saying that, everyone needs to go out and get a PR pro, but ironically enough, I was featured in the Sydney Herald, which is a paper here in Australia. And she was just flicking through into small business section, and I had an article, and she's like, holy shit, this is the guy I saw on Elance.
Oh, really? Wow. That's awesome. There's no better social proof or no better, testimonial than that, for sure.
Absolutely. And, she came back, she was like, oh, okay, so I might have misjudged you at first. And a lot of Elance and a lot of Odesk and Freelancer and a lot of these online platforms, there's a lot of misjudging going on. So if you can, I guess, look at things objectively and just, give it a try. I mean, you don't know until you try something. And you might get lucky early on. You might take a bit longer, but either way, there's usually quality jobs out there.
Sure. Let's take an example of me. Maybe I want to be a copywriter or something. That seems to be a very popular side hustle, doing outsourced writing for people. So I'm going to go on Elance and start. You just throwing my hat in the ring for different jobs that come up? Or is there something I should do before that to kind of give myself the best opportunity for success?
See, what's interesting about the job that you just recommended, a copywriter, you're sort of, I guess, having to prove yourself in your writing to the proposal. So it's kind of, I guess, you're doing the pitch and you're presenting your copywriting skills at the same time.
Right.
And I guess when it comes to assessing briefs and analyzing briefs, the ones who basically grill the client on every little point and every little detail will be the ones that'll be noticed the most, because you often see on these platforms, agencies or freelancers who have kind of routinized or systemized their process to going for bids, and it's just the same, bit of paragraph or text that they just spam on every single job. That doesn't get them anywhere. It's the ones who spend a good 15, 20 minutes, addressing the brief thoroughly. Even if the client's vague or ambiguous, they go ahead and ask questions. That's what'll get noticed. And of course, the next stage after that will obviously to deck out your profile with all the relevant, I guess, portfolio pieces you might have, and that's what.
Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, sure.
So I've got a kind of a blank slate on Elance in particular has a template or a form that you fill out. You can fill in your your catchy title, like for what your expertise is. I think you mentioned different tags that they have, and kind of this description box, which is like I don't know, is that like a pre-cover letter or a text version of your resume? What do you put in that description and title and stuff?
Yeah, well, essentially your profile is the first point of, when someone's interested in you, they're going to click on your name, and that's the first thing that they'll see. So this is your opportunity to essentially sell them on everything you do and why you're unique and why that's important to them. So yeah, when you consider what you put on your LinkedIn profile and who you think might be trying to find you on LinkedIn, it might be prospective employers. It'll be the same gist on these platforms as well. I guess from a client's perspective, the main things they're looking at is your history of past clients. If you do have them, if you don't have them, if you don't, that's okay, because most people don't when they start out, obviously. But what's easy to do is essentially linking your LinkedIn recommendations, or just repurposing them on your profile. Other things as well, like portfolio pieces. If you haven't used the platform before, try to link outside of the platform. That's what I did when I started. I worked at a digital agency for about 5 or 6 years, and essentially just created my own case studies in a PDF format, uploaded them to my portfolio on Elance, and it looked like I'd been there for years.
Okay, so even if there's no feedback or no client history, there's at least something filled in for those portfolio jobs to show that you're not completely green.
Absolutely. I mean, people want to see some social proof, and if you can't provide it immediately on the platform, just link them to outside sources like LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, just to make sure that they know you're a real human, and you're not going to screw them because you have some sort of social identity out there that can be affected. And
how strict are they in kind of keeping you on platform? Because it seems like they make their margin by on a percentage of each job that comes through. So are they okay with you linking out to LinkedIn or a portfolio website or something like that?
Yeah. So I don't know the exact specifics, but if there's anything about side hustles or entrepreneurialism, it's just to kind of ask for forgiveness, sort of thing. But at the same time, they can't expect you to be able to just start turning jobs if you've got nothing to show. And right. I guess the security to the client side and your side is to actually use the platform's escrow system, money payment system, so that no one gets screwed in the process. So with something like Elance, for example, who have an excellent escrow system, the client puts the job out, they essentially upload. Essentially.
He uploads those dollars into his escrow.
Yeah, I'm trying to say. Sorry, it's early here in Melbourne at the moment. So, but essentially, Elance holds the money for both the client and the freelancer, and they'll make an assessment if there's any disputes along the way, and distribute the money accordingly. But it's a layer of security for both sides. So whether you want to go inside or outside of Elance, which happens all the time. I mean, I hate to admit it. I've gone outside of Elance. I've taken clients from inside Elance and out, and invoice them externally. But if it's starting out with a new client, you certainly want that layer of protection.
What's your take on the different tests that they offer? Like, it seems like some of on the client side, some of the people I'm looking at have taken these tests, and it'll say like top 20th percentile or something like that. And then some of them will say like self-rated top 20th percentile. They're, well, I'm not going to put a lot of weight into the self-rated ones, but if they took an actual test, maybe there's some weight to that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the testing system, to be honest. I know they're different on each platform. Odesk have their own curated tests, but they're not overly in-depth, and I guess they don't really get to any nitty-gritty details that can certainly make someone look like a true expert, in my opinion. Elance is a bit different. They actually crowdsource their answers. So other, experts can essentially upload questions and have them featured as part of the test, which is an interesting point. But what happens over time is you see a really bad string of poorly asked questions and really outdated answers. So, for example, and you've got to be mindful about how you take tests and, how greedy you are with your numbers. For example, I took a social media test and I got a top 5% rating. I was like, oh yeah,
Okay.
I should be top 1%. I'm a bit arrogant like that. But I retook it and ended up getting a score of top 20% because of a series of really terrible
because you weren't happy
questions.
with the top 5%.
Absolutely. And now I can't actually go back and claim the top 5. It goes by whatever your most recent test score was. So, I'm a bit hesitant to try it again just in case I bump myself down to like top 50 or something like that.
Okay, so you got a chance to retake if you're not happy with the score, but there's a risk.
Absolutely.
There's a risk of going down, and you can only take the most recent.
Retake at
recent
your
one.
own risk. Yeah,
Okay.
Sure.
And so, in your opinion, like that doesn't carry that much weight on the client side. You would spend your hours rather than taking tests. What would you spend your time on as a new freelancer?
I guess building social proof, really. I mean, more case studies, more examples of outside work. Just showing them that, Elance or whatever platform you're using is one tool for your income, and then kind of just showing them that, you're much bigger than that. And
Okay.
I'm sure these platforms are going to hate me for saying this, but the world doesn't revolve around whatever happens in these little ecosystems. So if you can show that you've got a broader experience and freelancing is, second nature to you, I'm sure.
Okay. So I'm ready to start bidding on jobs now. What kind of projects am I looking for as a newbie out of the gate?
So one thing I like to tell other people is be really, really, really selective. So it's really tempting to just go around and spam for every little job you think you can handle. You're not going to get chosen for pretty much any of those if that's the mentality you take, because there'll be other specialists out there spending a lot of time on a proposal, looking at every single sentence that comes out of the client's text, and basically just addressing each one by one. What I would recommend is take a few simple low. If you haven't got any skills, that is, take a few simple, low-end jobs, and then just start building up a bit of feedback, building up a bit of confidence in the system, showing that you have a track record. And what I like to say is kind of make up in volume what you don't have in competence. So if you want to make, say, a few $100 a week extra on the side using Elance.
Okay.
Just essentially just try to work more jobs. Doesn't mean you should spam more jobs. It means you need to invest more time in the proposals, but also just try to accumulate lots of little jobs. And then over time you'll build your skill set and you'll start identifying your specialization and your niche. And then you can start bidding for the more, higher margin jobs.
It's funny you bring up like the folks on there that will just like go out and kind of like blanket spam shotgun approach like to all these jobs, and you're like, does this work for you? Like in theory it must, because otherwise they wouldn't be doing it. But you're like, who is going to hire you versus somebody who is spending some time and like actually crafting a cover letter that fits the job description? It kind of is a pet peeve, or kind of like blows my mind. Like I want to like provide some coaching to these people.
Yeah, it's interesting. The ones who hire those are also the ones who don't come back to the platform.
Do they show some sort of stats, like, what's your batting average in terms of jobs applied for versus jobs accepted?
You make an interesting question. In a nutshell, no, they don't. But at Digital Mind, we're working on I shouldn't have said it, but anyway, we're working on a software for freelancers that essentially pulls in, some of those information from various sources and does that for you. So.
It's like, it's like going on, a dozen sales calls. Like if you can increase your closing ratio by even a couple percentage points over the course of the month, over the course of the year, you're going to be significantly better off.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've got zero feedback. I've got some profile history that I've imported from outside work. Is there, and I'm going after these small jobs. Now, assuming I can land a few of those and I'm proactive about asking for feedback, because am I underbidding myself? Like, what kind of price points am I targeting versus what I'd like to charge?
Uh, that's really subjective based on, I guess, the project and how good you are at fulfilling that project or how confident you are in doing it. As I mentioned before, you don't want to undercut yourself too much and play on the same level as some of the other people out there. But if you don't have a skill set, obviously you need to consider that and discount for the fact.
Okay, I've seen some guys, and I've taken the risk of hiring somebody without a ton of feedback because he's like, hey, my normal rate is $100 an hour, but I'm here at 20 to try and build up a portfolio. I'm like, all right, sweet, and he seemed totally legitimate and whatever. He did great work, but I'm curious, like, how long does that go on until he can like go back up to his $100 an hour rate after he's built up some feedback?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'll give you an example. When I did my first job on Elance, now I'm kind of going against my conventional wisdom here. I actually bidded for a digital strategy job, and it was a fixed price job. So that's one other thing I should mention. Fixed price jobs obviously have a fixed price, and if you can do what someone else can do in half the time, then essentially you're making double the amount per hour.
Okay.
So if you can look at hourly rate jobs, or you can look at fixed price jobs, and you can probably make more margin that way as well. But going back to what you were saying before about going back up, look, if you're open from the start with the client that this is your normal rate, and it becomes a long-term relationship with the client, you can start to slowly propose slight increments in price, especially if it's tied to anything like performance goals, or you can see that whatever you're doing is translating to something for the client. Like I have a client based in California at the moment, and he paid me quite a low rate. I mean, I'd say probably about a third of what I'd usually charge. And over time, he started seeing sales in his business, and we had organised an arrangement that if he reached a certain milestone, we'll start to bump up the rate by about double. And we're very, very close to that now. So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, it's kind of some sort of built-in proof or built-in raise to say, hey, this is performance-based. Take a chance. Let me prove myself, and if it works, then you can pay me more next time.
Yeah, sure. Offered to do test projects as well. So if a guy's looking for a certain price point and you're a bit I guess stubborn on that, just say, look, I'll try it out at this price point for 1 or 2 projects or 1 or 2 weeks or something like that, and then you can ask to evaluate it at the end of it and then see what happens. Okay.
That's a little bit different from going completely on spec work, which has been I've learned this is like a red flag in like the graphic design industry. Like some people are adamantly opposed to doing spec work. Like, hey, my time is valuable. Like I'm like 99 designs, right? Like I'm not going to spend my time, entering this stupid contest because these people don't even appreciate good design anyways, and all this stuff. It's like, as a business owner, like I've worked for 100% commission for years. Like if I don't sell something, nothing happens. And so that's kind of an interesting take on it. But anyways, sorry for that tangent.
No, that's right. It's you make another interesting point. I mean, you got to know what you're worth, but at the end of the day, if you're new to a new side hustle, you're gonna have to make some sacrifice. I mean, that's entrepreneurialism, right?
Yeah, definitely. You got to do whatever it takes to kind of allow yourself the opportunity to get your foot in the door to be able to have the business you want to have. So we talked about we're going after some of these low price jobs or lower maybe lower jobs than you would typically want to target in order to build up some feedback, history and stuff on the platform. And you mentioned going after the fixed priced bids versus the hourly bids, which is an interesting strategy. I hadn't really considered that before. And kind of going after these longer term relationships, or where there might be an opportunity for a longer term relationship. Are you targeting individuals that are hiring, or kind of companies that are hiring, or is there a way to tell the difference as a freelancer?
Yeah, that's actually a really hard one. I find the best ones are the clients who are entrepreneurs themselves. So they might be in that middle growth stage of their business. They're now outsourcing work. They've got a few of their own employees working for them, but they've come to Elance to outsource a bit extra and to maybe bring on a long-term, I guess, partner in whatever discipline they're looking for. And I find that they really appreciate the proactiveness of freelancers. And I think all the clients I still have today are not the ones that work for big corporations who wanted to outsource, their presentation on Friday. It's the ones who wanted, a long-term digital strategist to be on the books every time they had a new, presentation coming and they needed some help with their pitch deck. They're the ones I find you build the best relationships with, and you sort of grow with them as they grow. And I've changed my rate at least 3 or 4 times with one of my clients, and they're totally comfortable with it because they know that as they grow, I'm kind of helping them do that. And as all the other staff, they've got positions in the company. I kind of have an ad hoc sort of position where I was initially just a digital marketer. I was doing Facebook ads, and then I became a digital strategist, and then now I'm basically their primary consultant for everything digital that they do. So.
And that's awesome. That's something I never even would have imagined would be a job that would even be up for bid on Elo. Like, I'm looking for a digital strategist. It sounds so high level. I didn't think of that as being on the platform. So that's awesome. I guess you never know until you go out there and look. Like, maybe somebody is out there looking for your expertise. I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
So aside from raising your rates, is there any other opportunity to kind of scale up or make freelancing a little bit more time leveraged if somebody is looking to replace their full-time income?
Yeah, so that's an interesting, I guess, philosophical question that a lot of freelancers face is, do I scale and grow a massive business, or do I guess, find more time? And for me personally, it's about the time thing, because I do have other pursuits like Digital Mind that I want to take on. Like, I'm a big fan of products. I hate services, but in reality, freelancing is services. But to me, it's a means to an end, freelancing. So what I look to do is try to maximize my time more so than maximizing my volume. And that's where the strategy of kind of building long-term relationships comes in. It's with freelancers, most freelancers I know, all they want is, which sounds a bit counterintuitive because that's why they left jobs in the first place. They want that secure income. And that expectation that there's money at the end of the month. So I guess building systems for being selective over time, and then slowly culling the amount of work you're doing and sort of just focusing on the few that provide the most margin. And if I make it a regular habit to bid for new work. I don't actually need it that often anymore, but I bid for new work probably once every 3 or 4 weeks. And if I find a client that pays me considerably more or offers considerably more than one of my other few, I'll start maybe transitioning a relationship away or passing it on to another freelancer I trust to manage that client. And essentially, it's just finding that right number and the ones with the right margins.
That makes sense too. And if you're spending your time with ongoing clients where you have a relationship, you're not out there, wasting your time bidding on jobs. Maybe you bid on 5 jobs and only score 1. And it's like, well, you spend an hour of your time, trying to get that one gig. And so if you can, have that long-term relationship, that's one way to scale up. And that makes sense. So, Cameron, if you had, now put yourself in the mind of the side hustler. If you have an hour a day to spend on freelancing and getting started on Elance, how do you spend that time?
So I guess I initially had a different thought in mind, but if you were going to be specific to freelancing, excuse me.
Well, let's hear your other one next, but go freelancing
Okay,
first.
that's all right. Okay. I guess I'd just recommend spend that hour bidding jobs because. If you've got nothing to work with, there's no freelancing that's going to get done, and you'll learn quickly what is working and what isn't working with your proposals. If not, you can always come to the Digital Mind site and read out articles. But
nice pitch.
Sorry for the plug. That's all right.
No, that's good.
And in an hour you probably get maybe 5 to 6 done, and that doesn't sound like too many. But if you really take the proposal process seriously, you'll work on maybe 5 to 6 max. And, most people, as we've said about 3 or 4 times, just copy and paste text. So if you spend that hour, investing a little bit more time into something, you'll likely get a result quickly.
Did you ever try, and this was introduced to me by Daniel DiPiazza, a former Side Hustle guest, what he would do was create a personalized video personalized video pitch for like each job he would bid on. And that was his way of standing out. He'd put in the little text box, hey, I made this video just for you. I thought this would be more personal than, writing some form letter, cover letter. And he's like, hey, this worked. This ended up getting jobs and commanding a higher price point because it was something that nobody else was doing, and it made him stand out among all the other clients or all the other bidders.
That's great. I haven't seen that, actually. I might have to go back and have a look.
Yeah, jump on there. That could take the biz to the next level. Well, very cool. Cameron, thanks so much. It's digitalmind.com, MINED, and anywhere else people should find you online?
I'm on Twitter, so at Cameron Rambert in one word. Also, I'm on LinkedIn as well, so feel free to hit me up if you'd like. Cool.
Awesome. We'll link you up to that stuff in the show notes, and we'll wrap things up with your number one tip for Side Hustle Nation.
Make up in volume what you lack in competence. So if you don't, that includes perceived competence. So if you don't have the skill set to get a certain job, just apply for more of those jobs. Invest more time. Just do more if you can. And then the other one is, sorry, I'm going to have this number 2. Just give it a go. Whatever it is, just find the confidence to give it a go. Amazing things happen when you start trying.
I'll paraphrase. Get your hustle on. I like it.
Get your hustle on. Easy.
Awesome. Cameron, thanks so much for joining me, and we'll talk to you soon.
Great. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
And there you have it, a step-by-step guide to making money as a freelancer. Great stuff. Links and show notes at sidehustlenation.com/episode 53. Stop on by, grab Cameron's free guide, leave a comment, or don't, whatever floats your boat. And remember to get your application in for the next Inner Circle Mastermind group starting soon if you think that's something that would help you out. We'll set up a free 15-minute intro call to see if it sounds like a good fit, and that's at sidehustlenation.com/join. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, go out there and make something happen. And I'll see you next week in episode 54.
Thanks for listening to The Side Hustle Show at www.sidehustlenation.com.